This episode was filmed remotely during lockdown. This is with one of my best mates, Kathryn McBride. I've been working with Kat as a videographer since January of 2019, and since then we filmed shows together continually in Glasgow as well as all over the UK. Kat is also one of the founding members of Loudmouth Promotions that put on shows in Glasgow for hardcore and punk bands. Kat's been involved in the Scottish hardcore scene for years, and in this episode we discuss our introduction to it, favourite bands and filming hardcore shows.
All my friends were we were all really into like metalcore, but like not like easily accessible metalcore, so like Parkway Drive, like the Devil Wears Prada and like Emure and stuff. And I remember them playing, it was Stick to Your Guns, Amber, and I'm pretty certain it was Throwdown's cover of Baby Got Back. And I was just like, oh, this is like cool. I don't get it, but it's like cool. And it just kind of went from there. Like when I heard like the difference between them, I got it a lot more, because like I liked metalcore, but it wasn't as like visceral in a way, I guess. So I kind of got into it from there, and they would play like Stick to Your Guns and Throwdown and Your Demise a lot, bands like that. And like Bury Your Dead, and we all just kind of fell into it from that, and everyone kind of started like, the people that I was with we didn't go to like local shows though, because we didn't know that they existed, because we were like really young, and we didn't know that there was like an actual community, so we just like didn't really access it unless we were at like the bigger shows. Like the first hardcore show that I actually remember like ever going to is literally Never Say Die in like 2000, I think it was 2010? No. 2010, and it was like Parkway Drive were headlining, and like Bleeding Through and Comeback Kid, and like a ton of other bands were on it, and Your Demise were on it, and we all went to see like Parkway Drive and Your Demise and Comeback Kid. And that was like the first time that we got to like, that we saw the people that I'm now friends with, or that I've now known for like, how old am I now? 25, for like nearly 10 years of my life. That was like the first time that I actually ever saw like people who were part of like the hardcore scene. And it kind of just went from there. Favourite current local bands? Definitely, it's like hard to pick favourites, because I feel like right now we don't have as diverse an amount of a scene as we used to. Like, we do have bands, but there's just not a really big volume of them. Like, we always kind of joke about how we've just got like a rotating circus of bands that are just like the same people just spread out across like different bands. But like, I think my favourite local ones definitely have to be like Revolve, then Null, Revulsion, and then in the past it was like By My Hands. Were definitely one of them. Burn the Sunset were one of them. I'm gonna get like this shit ripped out of me for that, but like Burn the Sunset were like literally one of the first ever local hardcore bands that I ever heard of, because they were just like, Catty Unders used to like bring in local bands to play, to kind of like get kids involved with like local music, and they were one of the bands that they pulled in at like one point, and I was like, oh my god, they're so cool. And I think, I don't know if Divide count as like past or present. Like they exist, they're still going, they turn up every so often. But Divide are definitely like one of my favourite ones, and Pay the Price as well. Pay the Price have always been like incredible to watch, and like the way that Cass writes is really cool as well, and the things that he writes about and how he does it, I just always thought was like really, really cool. Yeah. Mortality rate at Flying Duck. it wasn't like a big show. It was like Flying Duck's a really small room and it's a basement, and it's cold as shit, but it's like, it just feels, it's really hard, it's like hard to explain. It's like, it feels how I always want shows to feel. It's small, it's tightly packed, everyone's like bumping into each other, but everyone was just having like such a sick time. And to have, it was Vent's first show, which was sick to watch, and it was great to see Gemma really kind of come out of her shell the way that she did during that, and to watch like the differences in the bands that were on the bill, because although it was like a hardcore show, like I wouldn't class every single band on that bill as like hardcore, because like when you put like Vent next to Serration, it's completely different sounds. But I think that was definitely like one of my favourite ones of all time, just because like it felt like everyone kind of coming back together again, and it was just like fun. Like no one was being like a dick, no one was completely trashed. It was just everyone was kind of bopping along with each other, and it was great. And our wee Greg got his wee vocal grab. That was wonderful. And I think my favourite show of all time, it definitely has to be, it's a toss-up between shows for like the same band. So Stick to Your Guns did 2 shows in London in like 2016 that were album shows. So they did one night of the Hope Division and another night that was Diamond. No, not Hope Division. They didn't do Hope Division, they did Diamond, and they did Disobedient in full on 2 different nights. And it was like in the middle of the week, and no one else could like take the time off work, so I ended up going down on my own, going anywhere on my own for the first time, and I went down to London alone, and I went to Underworld to see it, and it was them and Stray from the Path and Counterparts, and the night that they played Diamond was like completely sold out. And I ended up having to like give my bag to their merch guy, because the cloakroom, they didn't have any room for anyone's stuff in the cloakroom. For some reason their cloakroom is not built to handle the amount of items of people within the venue. So I had to like throw my bag at him. I was like, I need you to understand it. I've come all this distance, I'm on my own, I have no one to give this bag to, and this album like changed my life, please take it. And he was like, okay. So I like threw my bag at him, and they played Life in a Box that night. And Life in a Box is a song that they wrote about religious homophobia, and it's literally like, it's like 2 minutes long, it's not a long song, and it changes like tempo really quickly and really weirdly, but Life in a Box, hearing that from when I was like whatever age I was when Diamond came out up until like when I kind of started dealing with like my emotions and stuff, and like realising, like going on the journey of like realising like that I wasn't straight, having that song was like so important to me, and getting to hear it live in person was just like mind-blowing. And Diamond itself was just a sick album, and it was also a night where Straight from the Path have a song called Die Pig, and it's all about like, they wrote it in response to like people like Ian Watkins and Front Porch Step, and they always talk before they play it about what it's about and how they don't like stand for it, and they actually called out, and they always make a point of like saying this is like explicitly dedicated to men like Ian Watkins and Front Porch Step, we don't believe in that, it's not okay. But on the night that they played it, they dedicated it to someone they actually used to tour with, in front of people who like knew that person, who had been on tour with both bands, and they were like, we didn't realise that was happening, we didn't know that was happening, and we completely refute that as someone who ever should have been around our band and should have ever been given the access to like young women. We don't want that to be a part of us, so this is like a dedication to you, we fucking hate you. And to see that as like a young woman was like really, really like really cool and mind-blowing, because it was someone whose music I had listened to, who was like not part of like the local scene, but like the UK like metalcore scene. And it was just really cool to get to watch that. It was like a really, like for going down like on your own, not knowing anyone, and being in this tiny cramped room, because Underworld, again, it's a basement, there's no daylight, it's so warm, but getting to like be there for something that I so desperately wanted to see, and having like all these really cool moments throughout the show was like incredible. So that's like probably one of my most favourite shows of all time, yeah. In Glasgow, my favourite venue is Audio, because the stage is big enough to fit the entire band, all of their equipment, and one of us at each side, and like 3 people stood behind me, and 6 people hanging out of the band room without me being like teetering on the edge of a stage or worrying that I'm gonna fall off or that I'm about to get kicked in the face, and I really appreciate that. It's really relaxing. And also it's like elevated, but it's not elevated enough that like if I do fall off of it or someone goes head first off of it, that someone's actually going to get like seriously hurt. And it's also one of the only stages that doesn't have that really annoying, like, you know, that metal clipping thing they put around the edges of stages? They've got it in like Classic and they've got it in G2, and I hate it so much because I can't get a grip on it and it's so dangerous, and I've ruined so many shirts like leaning against those things. So I hate that. Also Audio just kind of feels like, it just kind of feels homey. Like it is where majority of our local shows have been happening for a long time. Like I know now we've moved to like Audio Lounge and more to Flying Duck and spaces like that. But I just really, really like the way that Audio is laid out. And also their bar staff all know us, so and they're always like really nice to us, and their security as well, because we've used it so much, they just kind of let us do whatever. They know that if anything happens that we like self-regulate and that we'll deal with it. Whereas I feel like we don't kind of get that leeway as much with other venues. And it also kind of reminds me of Shadow Sound as well, because Shadow Sound was like a health and safety nightmare. Because like BYOB venues in like dodgy areas are not a great idea, and like there was definitely so many like nails sticking out and like carpeting that wasn't put down correctly, and like that dodgy as hell staircase that you could only fit like 2 people on at a time, and like all the metal bars was not great, but it still has that kind of feel to it. But out of Glasgow, I think my favourite actually has to be New Cross Inn, but I didn't like it when the first time that I went, because I've never seen it until we shot Upsurge, not Upsurge, Readyfest. I hadn't seen New Cross Inn until we shot Readyfest, and I thought that it was like, I thought it was similar to Audio. It's like a room with no windows and it's got like a bar somewhere. I didn't realise it was like an actual pub with like big bay windows with all the sunlight streaming in. And when we got there I was like, this is going to be a nightmare for my camera. How the hell are we meant to shoot with daylight and buses going past and all of this happening? But because it's so spacious and like you can stand on the window ledges, and we've got the little bit up the back at the bar that I can stand on when I don't want to get kicked in the face. I really like it for that. Like its layout is great. Again, the stage isn't too high. I don't like the pillar that's in the middle, because that pillar gives me the fear. It also ruins so many of my shots. But it's just like, it's well laid out, it's well air conditioned, and it still has that like local kind of feel to it. And also Chicago shawarma is like 2 doors down, so it's like I can watch a band, film it, finish, and in that 15-minute break I can run 2 doors down, get food, run back, drink a can of juice and get going again, which is great. I appreciate that. I have priorities. Outside of filming and trying to put on shows. Trying is like emphasis on that because we're really bad at being organised. And also like the people that I put on shows with for like Loudmouth, like there's me, Ewan and Gemma. Gemma's just joined like recently. But we all work a lot. And now that we have Gemma, although we have like a third person, Gemma also has college. And she does a lot of like acting out with of college. So like outside of filming and trying to put on shows, I work a lot. I currently work at Glasgow Airport, which is great to say during a pandemic. Ta-da! Worldwide pandemic! And I work in an airport where there's like 5 million people coming through every single day. It's great. I spend a lot of time like in work because I have like a low contract, but I try and work it so that I do like overtime as often as I can so that I can then bribe work to have time off to go film shows. So it's like it's a hit and a miss because like it comes in handy and they'll like be like relaxed with me when I want to do things. Like for Backtrack, I really shouldn't have gotten the time off to go and film that show, but they were like, if you change like all your shifts for like this week and you get back in time for this shift, you can go, but you literally are gone for like 18 hours and then you have to get back here. And I was like, yeah, okay, that's fine. It was the worst decision of my life. I was so tired and so hungover when I got to work the next day. It was disgusting. Then apart from like working all the time, I try and do like some freelance video work. And then I write, I've started writing like screenplay ideas, which was something I've always kind of messed around with like other friends. Like me and my friend Charlotte used to like make like playlists for like movies. We'd be like, oh, like if someone made a movie about like this, what do you think the soundtrack would be? And we would sit and like make up playlists for that. So whilst we're locked in our houses for the foreseeable future, I was like, why don't I actually do that? So there's been like, I'm taking like little ideas that I've kind of like jotted down and I'm working on like one of those. Admittedly, it didn't start from like a good place. Like, I will straight up admit that. Like, although me and Ewan had like joked for a while about like putting on shows, there was like a moment last year where we were just like, you know what, fuck it. I'm tired of feeling like there's only one group of people who can do that. And it wasn't that anyone said that one group of people could only put on shows. It was just like, I didn't know how to do it, you didn't know how to do it, and we didn't want to like ask people. Because like asking for help sucks. I never want to ask people like, hi, how do I do this? I hate it. Like, it makes me feel like I'm 10. And so Loudmouth was kind of our reaction to a situation that happened last year. And then it was also the fact that we felt like, as great as it is to have shows that are just like all of your mates hanging out in the one spot, it also kind of felt like we weren't interacting with like other elements of the music scene that was around us, because Glasgow's like a really, really diverse city when it comes to music. Scotland has an incredible music scene in general, and it just kind of felt like we weren't interacting with the other sides of that much. Like we were just, to me it felt like we were just in this bubble that was just like, either you're part of this or you're not, and if you're not, whatever. So we wanted something that had like more diverse acts on the bill. So like something, because that's what Ross used to do with Cruel Minded and Thanks for Nothing, and that's what Struggle Town used to do as well. It was like really diverse bills that were like bands who should all be kind of, they're in the same kind of realm of sound, but they're different genres, and they're maybe not people who would have like met otherwise. So we wanted something that was more kind of like that. And it was also like, there was a lot of, one thing that I'm really proud of for like Scottish Hardcore is that we do a lot of like charity work. As in like, most people that I know do volunteer in like their spare time. And then other people are like, or we're putting on shows for a charity, and like all of the money from that will go to like paying off the venue and giving charity the money. and we wanted to do something that meant that we were focusing on causes that we thought were important as well, because like like charity's always really, really important, and you should always be giving to like whenever and wherever you can, but it just kind of, there was like things that we felt that were getting kind of overlooked. Like in the time that I've been coming to shows, like there was charity shows for like things that people were personally affected by and issues that were like worldwide issues, but like there was never a show for like an LGBT cause, and we wanted to do that, so we did that for our Christmas show. And it was just kind of like, we were like, why aren't we putting on shows? This is our scene. Why are we not having some kind of input into it? Why are we not interacting? Why are we not trying to get bands who maybe wouldn't want to come to a show to come to a show? Like bands who maybe we overlook. Like Gay Panic Defense, a lot of people loved them when we had them at the Christmas show, but a lot of people were also like, oh, I never would have probably wouldn't have gone to see them at a show if it wasn't like one of our own. But everyone loved them. Everyone ate them up. They thought they were great. So it was that as well. Like we wanted to kind of focus on having these spaces, like kind of closing up the gaps that were between like our scene and Scotland's entire music scene. It was all kind of lead up. Like when I was younger, I used to always run around with a like my parents' like digital camera, like the little crappy ones that are like the little like point and shoot ones. And then when I was always like kind of good at photography, and then throughout school I like wanted to be like everything. And then like I ended up doing, when I left school, I went and did media, and I did like a HNC and a HND, and in my HNC, like your graded unit, you got to like, for your graded unit at the end of the year, you have to like make something. And that year they'd spent the whole year teaching us about like radio. And you're like, oh, if you do your HND, then you'll learn about film next year. And me being like the overambitious dumbass that I was like, I've spent the whole year learning about radio, so you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna make a music video with no teaching whatsoever. It's gonna be great. It was awful, but I did it. And I got like I think it was a B. And then next year, because making that music video was so stressful, I was like, I never want to look at a camera ever again. I'm going to do radio. So I did radio for my HND, and then I went to, there was no unis in Scotland that really kind of focused on radio, so I picked like a really general course that was broadcast production and went and did radio at that. For like, dropped in at third year, for my third year did focus on like radio and podcasting, realised I hated it. I hated like trying to learn about like sound and stuff. Like it just didn't make any sense to me, and I was just like so stressed out. And then when it got to fourth year, in my course you didn't do any exams, but you had to do like a dissertation and a creative project. And I decided for my creative project, everyone was doing like, I wanted to do like a documentary, and I decided I wanted to do one about Scottish hardcore. And I was like sitting down and like trying to write out everything about like making it work as a radio, and I eventually like, I went and see one of the lecturers and I was like, I want to do this but it doesn't work as a radio concept, but it means I have to do film, and I've not been taught how to do any of that. I don't know what I'm doing. And she was like, well, you can try. If you want to do it for your end of year project, you can try. For your BA Hons degree, you can fall flat on your face, but go for it. But you have to speak to like the lecturer who's in charge of like the film part of the course. So when it came down to like, we had a day where we had to explain to the class what we were making and what it was. And when they called out for like all the radio students or sound-based students to go out, all of them went. So when I presented all of mine, the like film lecturer was just like sat at the side of the room. I was at the front of the class and he was like off at the side and he was just looking at me like, oh my fucking god, no. I was like, I'm gonna make a short film about hardcore punk in Scotland, woo! And he was like, oh great, cool, this is fine. So I was like running around shows filming with like filming with my mates and this really big clunky camera, and I got talking to you because I needed clips of shows from that. And then I kind of like, once I did that, I like took a break from that for a while because I was like, that was really stressful and I did not enjoy that at all. Like I literally made it, we were meant to spend like 3 months making that thing. I did it in about a month, and like maybe 18 hours of sleep for that entire month. Because it was like post dissertation, I was like, that's done, now I have to make this, let's go. And then I was making like little short videos of like travel vlogs and stuff with like my family and friends and stuff, and the movie that I based the original documentary on was SLC Punk, and I was like at a convention and I spoke to like one of the guys who was in it, Matthew Lillard, and I like told him, and he was like really excited about it, and he was like, oh, like let me see it, and I was like, I'm not letting this man see this piece of shit that I created, oh my god. So I panicked and told him that I was making a new one that was going to be like a full length. So I lied to Shaggy from Scooby-Doo and told him I was making a new one. And I got home and I literally put out a tweet that was like, oh, I'm thinking of like remaking this because it's atrocious. I went back and watched it and it was even worse than I thought. And I put out a tweet being like, oh, I kind of really want to remake this, but I don't have a camera and they're expensive. And Chantal Walker, who used to take photos at shows, like we barely knew each other, and she literally just tweeted me and she was like, I'm not using my camera, let's hang out, let's talk, and I'll give you it. And you can have it, and you can run around filming shows because it's literally gathering dust. And I cannot thank her enough for that. Like, this girl who I barely knew, who just knew that I was like this kid from shows, was like, here, take my old camera, I'm not using it, do what you want. And I was running around filming again, and I remember running up to you at an audio show because I've been filming like on the floor, like trying to get clips of people like two-stepping, and I wasn't like lying on the floor, I was just like crouched, and I came running up to you and I was like, Di, all my footage is really, really dark, and I don't know why, because I didn't know what I was doing with a TSLR. And you were like, have you pressed this button and this one and like moved it? And I was like, no. And you were like, ta-da. I was like, oh my god, right, okay, cool. And I like ran off, and I remember shooting the rest of the show, and at the end I remember coming up to you and being like, thank you so much for like taking the time to like explain to me a really, really like easy answer for a really dumb question. And I remember you jokingly being like, oh well, if you want, like we should like, maybe you could like help out, I need like a second camera, ha 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 ha. But you were like kind of serious about it, and I was just like short and panicked and was like, ah, that's nice, bye. So I just like ran off. And I think that was like October, November. And I like took the time to think about it. And I think the next show I like came up to you, or like I messaged you and was like, yeah, were you actually serious? Because like I have nothing else going on and it actually sounds kind of fun. And I feel like I could do it and do it kind of well, maybe, I guess. There's only one way to find out. And then it kind of went from there. And then the first show that we shot that year was in like January, I think. The first show that we shot together was in like January, audio. And it was like a local show, and it was like chill as hell. And then the next show that we shot was Vane at G2. And I like shat myself. Because that stage is like so big, so high up. And the side of the stage that I was standing on at G2, there's literally like a little sliver of space between like it's literally like this much space, it's awful, between like all of the gear and the front of the stage. And yeah, I just haven't really like stopped since, because it's like, it's fun, I enjoy it, I would like to think I'm kind of good at it. And it means I get to hang out with my mates and do like really cool stuff, because it's like, what else? I wouldn't be doing a lot else right now if I wasn't filming shows, I don't think. Backtrack were really, really fun to film the 2 times that I got to film them. I spent both sets dodging limbs and holding on to like poles and like trying to duck and trying not to get kicked in the face, but it was like really, really fun. Because they're just so like, they've got such good riffs, and that was like, filming them was always, you can move to them and have a good time, and you could also still get those really, really heavy bits where everyone's like just losing their minds, and so that was really fun. Revolve are really fun to film because everyone just goes mental. They've got incredible riffs, there's like no denying it. They're all stupidly talented and it's ridiculous. But they're incredible to film. Even when you like, usually I've got Martin and Jack on my side, and you've got Decky on yours usually. But like when you get to like, when you really watch Decky's hands whilst he's playing, it's like impeccable. And it's just really cool to watch like them work. Greed were really fun, or where they've not split up, I don't think. They're really fun to film, just because like again they're really technically great, and their vocalist is like, he's like kind of threatening but like not. Like I know he's like objectively like a nice dude, like I've seen him like hanging out and he's just really nice, but like when he's on stage you're like, oh no, no, stay away, far away, you're gonna like kick me in the face. But they're really fun to film as well because again everyone loses their minds. The funniest band to film though has been Counterparts, because like I love Counterparts in general, I think they're an incredible band, but I don't think many other bands can pull off having a set that's literally like half their actual music and half just them ripping the absolute piss. And I think that's great. Like, they're a wonderful band. I love them to bits. I think they're incredibly talented. Their music's great. But they're also just stupidly funny. So it's fun to actually film them, and also I got to spend most of the set just like internally cringing at like all of the dudes who just kept like getting up on stage and like making like direct eye contact like with you and Johnny, and just seeing like the embarrassment and the stress across our faces was fun. Because we're all just like, oh, okay, you're not done? Okay. So they're fun to film. I think, just whilst it's in my head, Strife at Ready Fest is like 100% one of my all-time favourite sets that we've ever filmed. Because like, I was still at the back on the bar, so I wasn't getting hit in the face. That was really nice. But also, everyone just went mental. Like, it was a Friday night, and it was meant to be like the quiet night, because it was like a Friday. It wasn't like a full day fest. It only started at like 6, and people just went like mental. Like, I've never seen anything quite like it. Was like it was genuinely my first introduction to like a London hardcore show. So like that, coupled with like seeing Strife and seeing how people reacted to them, and how like that entire set, there's not like a break in it. There's not a point where anyone really like tires out and just like, and they slow it down, and like that doesn't happen for that whole set. It's just 100 from the word go, and it just keeps going for that entire time, and watching it was incredible. I was just like in awe the full time. It was just wild. What else have I really enjoyed? Like Youth of Today and Shelter were really cool as well. Like those have been a couple of my favourites because they're really iconic bands, but also Shelter, because they're Hare Krishna, and they kind of tie their beliefs to the music, and kind of incorporate it in. That was really cool to see, because like I've never really seen bands do that before, apart from like when I was younger and I was really into like Christian metalcore, like Under Oath and shit like that, and Devil Wears Prada. It was a time in my life to like to see a band kind of tie their beliefs into it, and the way that they do, in a way that's done like so beautifully, was really, really cool. So that was really one of my favourite ones. Probably filming Comeback Kid as well, but I can never work out which was better. Like the first time, which was Outbreak, and I was on like drum cam, and I was just like losing my mind up the back when they started playing like Wasted Hours and Wake the Dead, and their merch guy just looked over at me from like the other side of the drums and was like, "Okay, you're having a nice time," and I was like, "Yeah," because I was being like so loud. I was literally just like screaming the lyrics back out, and he was like, "Jesus." And then the second time that we filmed them, I was like I was stage left, and just watching them and getting to have that moment of like, this is a band that got me into hardcore when I was a teenager. This is a song that I listened to when I was a teenager and found hardcore for the first time, and now I'm getting to film it live. And it's not on like my iPhone and I'm stood at the bar with like a pint in my hand. It's like, I'm here because we want to make sure that people can actually see this in later years. So that was really cool. The final backtrack set, like their last ever UK show in Leeds, that's also been one of my funnest ones. That's one of my favourite ones that we filmed, because it was just really funny. Like, it was really cool to get to see people like give them like a proper send off. Like, that was really sick. But it was also really, really funny because their guitarist, I think his name's Chris, I'm not sure, the long ginger haired one, the brothers, he thought that I was taking photos, so he just kept like stopping throughout the set and just posing. I was like, how do you interrupt someone mid-set to tell them that you're not taking photos of them, you're filming? Like, you can't lean over mid-riff and be like, that's great, man, thank you, it's a wonderful angle. But the thing is, it's a video. And we had like Hangman were like beside me for like the most of that set, and because they're from like the same, because they're both like New York hardcore, Long Island hardcore, they were like losing their minds as well and like really, really going for it, and that was like nice. Like, I think when you get to watch friends send off their friends' bands, I think that's something really cool. That's like, it's like those moments where you see like the actual community part of it, where it's like, we're all doing this for like whatever reason, but at the end of the day we're all going to support each other as much as we can whilst doing it. So that was one of my favourite ones to film. It's between two people. It's between Brims, because filming Adjust was like, I think I only filmed Adjust like twice before they split, but Brims is incredible to film. The way he, like, first off, Adjust are just a fantastic band. We're just a fantastic band. They were one of the sickest things to ever come out of Scottish hardcore, and it sucks that they're not around now, because people would just eat it up. Like, it's always been like my opinion that they are one of those bands who should have gotten further. And when the way that Brims moves on stage and the way that combined with the way that they sound is just like incredible. And he's just always like, the times that we did film them, he was just like so no nonsense about everything. And that's just like him in general, but the way that he like says it when he speaks about things when he's on stage, people do kind of, I feel like people listen more in that moment. But like between like the way he moves, the way the music sounds, and the energy that they all bring is great. And the other one would have to be, oh no, it's between three. No, I lied, it's between three. So the other one is Brendan from Counterparts, because he's just funny and ridiculous, and talented, and that's great. And then the other one is, it's Craig from Revulsion, because he's an incredible drummer. He's so talented, and I hate it. Because like watching him, I'm just like stressed. I'm like, oh my god, what is that? But he is like, because the first time I saw him, he was in a different band, and it was False Hopes, I think it was, and they were like a metalcore kind of deal, or like a more metal deal. They supported Trash Talk. Anyway, so it's like in that realm of things. But he's like an incredible drummer. Like watching him is just mind blowing. It sucks that like 90% of the time I can't get any good shots of him because there's like a symbol or there's like bad lighting or something like that. But he's brilliant to watch. So yeah, I think I can't narrow it down to like 1. It has to be like 3. That's a hard one because there's things that I am proud of myself for video, for like, I'm proud of the amount of work that I put into trying to make a documentary on the Scottish hardcore scene. I'm proud of like the work that I put in to make, because it was going to be like a feature-length thing, and although I haven't finished it and I don't know if I will finish it, I'm still proud of the amount of work that I put into that, because it was like a really big push for me to like, I like staying in like my own little bubble, and I always feel quite hesitant to involve myself with like other people. Like I always feel like I'm bothering other people, especially within like hardcore. I feel like I don't really fit into like specific friend groups. Like there's always like specific groups I feel like I don't fit in them, and that's like my own thing and I'm aware of that. But I really pushed myself to like speak to people who I didn't know or who I maybe didn't see eye to eye with, or who I just didn't really like, and like make the time to sit down with them and talk to them about why hardcore was or is so important to them and the impact that it had on them. So I'm really proud of the work that I put into that. It sucks that I feel like I can't finish that because of things that went on whilst I was filming, but that's like a different deal. The other thing I'm really proud of myself for creatively was Outbreak was the first festival I ever shot, and it was really last minute that I ended up having to do it, but Outbreak is like any festival really for us is like an 11-hour, 12-hour day, because we're at the venue before everyone else. Well, we're usually down the night before, so we get there pretty much before like most people. We're at the venue before everyone else, and sometimes that includes the bands. So like when we turned up for Outbreak, we were there before pretty much every band, including the band who was meant to be on at like 12 on the dot. And then all day, because there was only me, you and Sean that were filming, we didn't really have the time for breaks, and we also kept forgetting to take breaks, because like when you are doing a festival like ours, you like pretty much every band on the bill. So it's hard to kind of be like, I don't want to film this band, I want to go like grab a pint or talk to people. And it's also hard to do those things between the 10-minute gaps between bands. And I have epilepsy, and with my epilepsy, it flares up when I'm tired or overworked or exhausted. And so filming festivals, I have to be really, really careful with that, because I can actually end up having a seizure. And I would quite like, I'm sure we would all quite like, if I made sure that it didn't happen. Mid-festival, I just collapse to the floor and like tense up and just start seizing and like dying on the floor. And for Outbreak, it was my first time doing something like that, and doing it with that diagnosis kind of like looming over me. Because like when I was like turning up to get you guys, I was like, is this really such a good idea, knowing what aggravates my condition, knowing that there could be strobe lighting, knowing that I'm going to be tired, knowing that there's not really going to be time to stop. And I ended up filming every single band on that bill, and just didn't stop like all day, and I made time to talk to people, and I said hi to friends, and I still filmed every single band on that bill that day. And it was like a 12-hour day, and I got home and I went to bed, and then I got back to Glasgow and I went to work. So that's like one of my proudest things, like to get through that day was like a really big deal for me. Yeah, it's like a really kind of soft, I feel like that's like a really soft, lame thing. Like I try not to make it like a big deal about my epilepsy, because I've got like a good handle on it. I've got like a really good handle on it. I'm very, very lucky, and I'm aware of that. But it was like a scary kind of moment when you're like walking up to a venue and you're realising like the amount of work that you're about to have to put in for something like a festival. hardcore is a community, and when you're part of the LGBTQIA community as well, it's like a Venn diagram. It's like there is overlap, but a lot of the time it feels like it's really, really small. Like, a lot of the time I am very aware of the fact that I am one of maybe like 10 people in a room who is part of that community, and it is quite scary and quite overwhelming. Like at home, I know that like a lot of the people that I speak to in our scene are part of that community, and that's great. But it is kind of hard sometimes because you are hyper aware of like, hardcore is, for all intents and purposes, it is an aggressive genre, and there is like a certain, it's not like a uniform, but there's like a certain way people, like there's a certain look to it. And sometimes it feels like when you already feel kind of out of place because you are part of another community and this is like another subset of your personality, it feels like you kind of stick out like a sore thumb, kind of. Like I know that I look like a certain way. I know, like, with the buzz cut and like with like, I guess like my attitude and the way that I dress and how I'm like kind of androgynous some of the times, other people like see it and it kind of, it's not like a chip in the kind of armor, but sometimes it's like something that people pick on in a way. It's like, it's happened before. Pretty much everyone's aware of that, but that's not news. It's like there is like an element of representation, and there is not, like, you have bands like See Space Cowboy who are incredible. They are so talented and I have so much time for them. And Connie, I admire her so much, like, because she just doesn't give a shit and she will put you in your place without hesitation or like any doubt or anything. Like, I feel like I always try and be like nice to people, and I feel like I need to stop being like gentle about things and being like nice and being like, I don't want you to hate me, but also what you're doing is like really mean. Whereas she's just like, I will fuck you up, no questions asked. And I admire that so much. And they did the really cool run of shirts that was, they did like their most recent merch drop was like, I think it's all like anime related, and one of the shirts that they did has on the back, don't just protect trans kids, fight their oppressors. And it's like a really, really sick shirt. I think there is like a certain level of like representation. It's just maybe not as clear as it would like to be. There's not like there's not like a big flashing sign that's like, here they are. Here in this little subset community is this extra little subset of the community. There you go. This is your spot. It's not like that. It's like, and then you have bands like Sharptooth who aren't, they're like hardcore adjacent, I guess. I love them. I think they're incredible. Who have songs with lyrics that are like really politically charged and very outwardly, like there's no like fancy way about it. Like they literally have a song where the line in it is like, every time that you say faggot, it's a bullet to my head. And like when they were playing that at Outbreak, like the silence in the room was just like deafening, because they're always like, oh my god, what? Are they allowed to do that? There is like, it does exist, but it's also kind of, sometimes it makes you feel like a sore thumb. Like it is there, but sometimes you also, if you don't have like your group of people where you can have that conversation with and like be in that unit with, like I'm very lucky that I have that in our scene. Like I have the other people who are out and the other people who aren't out and people who are like working their way through their journey. I'm very lucky that I have that, but I know that other people don't have that. So it's like a catch-22. I don't know if that's just the UK though. Like I don't have an experience of US hardcore. I'm not really involved in it. Like I listen to it, but I don't really know people in it. So I can't really voice it. Like, I don't have an experience with being in a US hardcore scene and being visibly queer. Like, I don't have that experience. I have that experience here at home. But it's like a non-issue. 99% of the time it is a non-issue. Like, most of the time people are just like confused. Like, there was one conversation I had with someone like last year after we were filming, and I mentioned something about like a dude, and he was like, oh, I thought you were like gay though, and I was like, no, and he was like, oh, like, I never wanted to ask because I didn't want it to be like impolite, and I was like, you can ask, it's not impolite. It's like when you start using words that aren't yours to use. Because I think there's kind of like hardcore always comes with like edgy humour, especially now, and that's like fine. But I think there needs to be like not like a conversation, but I think a lot of people who use edgy humour kind of need to realise like certain words aren't theirs to use when they do use them. I don't know. I don't feel like I've worded that right. It's like, if that word does not belong to the community that you are a part of, don't use it. Like, it's truly that simple. Wildly, it is that simple. There is like, I don't know, I feel like there is representation, and I also feel like there is not. Like, every so often I find it, and then I feel like I lose it. Like Ceremony, the guitarist for Ceremony, I don't know what their deal is, what their sexuality is, but the moments where you do get to see it is like incredible. Like, they come out on stage in like stockings and a garter belt and like lace pants and this lace floral shirt, and they've got their face done gorgeous with like this harsh makeup, these huge eyeliner wings and this lipstick, and like they're moving like all sultry and like it's everything, and they're playing like this really, really aggressive angry riff. And like when they were playing New Cross and when they just literally started like just shoving kids right off stage because they were just being absolute dicks and like knocking over like the keyboard thing that was there, like that was just like nice to watch, because I was like, hey, the same. We're the same, maybe, I don't know, I feel like we're the same, so that was like nice. Yeah.